My ex-wife humiliated me over vinegar. Then her wedding toast went viral and blew up her life. Hi, I'm Marcus Hale, 49, and I knew my marriage was over the moment she humiliated me in front of our dinner guests because I bought the wrong balsamic vinegar. It was a Tuesday night. I had just finished a 12-hour day managing a logistics company in Seattle. I came home, showered, even ironed a shirt, which I never do, because Vanessa said we were hosting a casual little dinner for her clients from the art gallery. I placed the bottle of vinegar on the kitchen island like some kind of offering. She turned, looked at it, then at me, and said, loudly, "You got this one? Are you kidding? This isn't from Medina. This is grocery store trash." Everyone froze, and I stood there with a baguette in one hand and shame in the other, wishing the hardwood floor would swallow me whole. That was the exact moment, I think, when love quietly packed its bags and left. I kept smiling, laughing along like a hostage with Stockholm Syndrome. But something snapped. 6 months later, I left divorce papers folded neatly under the salt shaker on our kitchen table and boarded a plane to Lisbon with 2 bags and no plan. Vanessa remarried fast. A man named Brandon Pierce. Wealthy, polished, the kind of guy who buys $600 shirts and tucks them into his swim trunks. Vineyard wedding in California. Guests in linen. Her vows included a quote from Rumi and zero irony. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. A single guest's toast set the whole day on fire. And 3 hours later, she called me, screaming. I was 5,300 miles away, sipping wine on a Lisbon balcony, listening to fado music float through the alleyways. And for the first time in years, I was breathing. I didn't answer her call. Not out of spite. Not at first, anyway. I just didn't recognize the number. Lisbon numbers start with a 2. Hers was still California. And frankly, I was on my 3rd glass of red in mid-conversation with the 72-year-old Portuguese man who owned my building and kept insisting I learn how to make proper caldo verde. The voicemail that followed? Pure Vanessa. Marcus, I know this was you. Don't play dumb. That speech? At my wedding? What the hell did you do? I hit play again. Then a 3rd time. She was genuinely unhinged, like someone had just whispered her darkest secrets over the microphone and served them alongside the duck confit. I'll admit, I laughed. Not because I'm cruel, but because for once, it wasn't me on the receiving end of her curated chaos. The same woman who once made me return a couch because it wasn't aspirational enough had finally tripped over her own aesthetic. Now, for context, Vanessa and I were married for 21 years. 2 decades of carefully posed photos, rooftop New Year's parties, artisanal candles, and emotional constipation. She was a gallery director in Seattle with a taste for avant-garde installations and men she could polish. I was her first renovation project. I think she loved the idea of me more than the man himself. But people can only live in museums for so long before the silence starts to feel like rot. After the vinegar incident, I started sleeping on the couch, then in the guest room, then in my office. And finally, I stopped sleeping altogether. The day I left, I didn't slam doors. I didn't make speeches. I just folded the divorce papers neatly next to the Himalayan sea salt she insisted we use because it photographs better. Then I flew to Lisbon, rented a modest flat with ivy climbing the walls, and started drawing again. Vanessa remarried Brandon 4 months later. I didn't hear a word from her. Not when the divorce finalized. Not when mutual friends posted photos of her diamond bigger than the one I proposed with. Not even when my sister accidentally forwarded me an invitation to their vineyard celebration of eternal union. But now she was calling me, raging, desperate, because someone, not me, had just wrecked her wedding with nothing but a microphone and the truth. And I had a very strong suspicion who that someone was. The toast went viral before the cake had even been served. Someone, probably one of the board influencer guests with a phone always at the ready, had filmed the entire thing and uploaded it to TikTok with the caption, "Best man or savage prophet? Wait for the ending." 3 million views in 12 hours. 10 million by the end of the weekend. The video starts with the guy introducing himself as Edwin Castleton, longtime friend of the groom. Total fabrication. I had no idea who he was. But when he raised his glass and started talking about Brandon, my ex-wife's shiny new husband, I put down my espresso and leaned in. He was older, maybe 60s, crisp British accent, and the kind of delivery that makes people sit up and shut up. He said Brandon was an exceptional curator of illusion, and that marriage should be built on truth, not least Maseratis and forged bank statements. And then he turned, physically, looked straight at Vanessa and said, "And to Vanessa, you've always had an eye for beauty. But sometimes, when you chase sparkle, you end up swallowing glass." You could practically hear the oxygen leave the tent. There's even a moment where Vanessa laughs, this high, brittle laugh, and then slowly realizes he's not joking. Then he finishes with this: "To the happy couple, may your foundation hold, even if the facade crumbles. And may your forever last longer than Brandon's last 3 LLCs. Glass-shattering silence. One guest actually spit out champagne. And then, chaos. The comments under the video were brutal. Did this man just give a toast or a TED Talk on red flags? Brandon's face at 1:12 when he realizes the jig is up, cinema. Vanessa blinking in Morse code. I watched the clip 4 times in my Lisbon apartment, each time catching some new, brutal nuance. The way Vanessa's smile fell frame by frame. The way Brandon's jaw clenched like he was chewing drywall. And the way Edwin, whoever he really was, walked off stage like he'd just dropped off a package and had dinner reservations to make. The best part? I didn't send him, but I did know who did. Her name is Tessa Monroe, 46, sharp as a razor, and the closest thing Vanessa ever had to a real friend, though neither of them would have admitted it out loud. Tessa ran a private art consultancy in San Francisco, the kind of gig where you drink $90 wine at noon and call it curation. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 3 years. Not since that weekend in Whistler where Vanessa cornered her in the sauna and accused her of intellectual gatekeeping because she dared say Basquiat was overrated. So imagine my surprise when I woke up in Lisbon the morning after the wedding toast apocalypse to a one-line email from her. "You're welcome." No subject line, no context, just that. I stared at it for a solid minute before typing back. "You?" She responded almost instantly. "You look too happy in your Portugal photos. Figured you deserved an early Christmas." I nearly choked on my espresso. Tessa, it turns out, had been following Vanessa's engagement with a mix of morbid fascination and mild horror. She'd been at the rehearsal dinner, sat next to Brandon, in fact, and picked up enough weird financial chatter to make her suspicious. So she did what Tessa always does. She dug. Background checks. Corporate filings. 2 phone calls to a finance guy in Palo Alto. And boom, Brandon's empire was shakier than a folding chair on a windy patio. She tried to warn Vanessa. Sent her an email. Got blocked. So, naturally, she hired Edwin Castleton. "Wait, that's a real person?" I asked when we finally got on a call. "Oh yeah," she said, laughing. "He used to narrate crime documentaries. Now he does bespoke toasts for hire. The man's a weapon. Worth every penny." I leaned back in my Lisbon chair, equal parts horrified and delighted. "You sent a professional voice actor to torpedo their wedding." I gave him facts. He turned them into performance art. She sipped something that sounded expensive. "Honestly, Marcus, I did it for you. And for the 10 years you spent walking on eggshells while she curated your personality like a gallery piece." We talked for almost an hour. By the end, I'd laughed more than I had in a year. Tessa told me all the things I hadn't heard since leaving. How Vanessa spun the divorce story. How Brandon was her upgrade. How their engagement was proof she was thriving. "And now?" I asked. Tessa grinned. I could hear it through the line. "Now she's a meme." By Monday, Vanessa's wedding face had gone international. There she was, frozen mid-toast, mouth slightly open, smile dying in slow motion, plastered across TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, even a meme account called it Ceremony Cringe with 4.7 million followers. Captions ranged from, "When you realize your husband's finances are fictional," to, "She married a spreadsheet error." There was a slowed-down version with dramatic violin music. A side-by-side reaction video featuring a lawyer explaining exactly how to detect a fraudulent LLC mid-vows. But the one that really sent it over the edge? An edit titled Trading Up, a Wedding Story, complete with on-screen text and dramatic zooms. It ended with Edwin Castleton's now iconic line, "May your forever last longer than Brandon's last 3 LLCs." That line, printed on t-shirts within 48 hours. I found out because Olivia, my daughter, 22, smart as hell and blessedly more like her Aunt Tessa than her mother, sent me a screenshot. "Dad, she's trending." Attached was a headline from a gossip site. Gallery Queen's Vineyard wedding implodes on camera. Financial fraud rumors swirl. Underneath, a side-by-side image of Vanessa and Brandon, both mid-toast, both looking like they'd just realized the building was on fire and no one had installed exits. I called Olivia immediately. She answered with a dry, "So, this escalated. Did you know?" I asked. "About Tessa's little hitman with a British accent?" I had an inkling. She asked me for background info 2 weeks ago. Said she was working on a statement piece. There was a pause. Then, "You okay?" "I'm not gloating, if that's what you're asking." "Good. Because I'm doing enough of that for both of us." She laughed, but it was more tired than mean. Then she added, "Jason saw the video, by the way. My son, 24, law school, still in that fragile space where he's trying to figure out who to believe, me or the version of me Vanessa wrote after I left." "What did he say?" I asked. "Not much, but he watched it 4 times. And he hasn't answered Mom's calls since." There was a long silence between us. Then I said, quietly, "I didn't want this for her. I just wanted peace." "I know," Olivia said, "but sometimes the truth's a wrecking ball, even when you don't swing it yourself." I walked to the window. Lisbon was golden, soft, peaceful. Across the ocean, Vanessa's empire of image was cracking, and the people she'd taught to ignore cracks were finally starting to look down. 3 days later, Brandon's financial house of cards collapsed. It started with a local investigative blog post titled, "Who is Brandon Pierce, Really?" authored by none other than Tessa Monroe under a pseudonym. But then the story got picked up by a national outlet, and things spiraled. Turns out Brandon's dealership empire was mostly dead, half-truths, and a dizzying series of LLCs that existed primarily to shuffle money around like a high-stakes shell game. He had luxury cars he didn't technically own, properties mortgaged to the hilt, and a credit score that read more like a dare. By Friday, 2 creditors had filed lawsuits. By Sunday, a warrant. And by Monday morning, Brandon was gone. No press release. No statement. Just vanished. His social media accounts were deactivated. His assistant told reporters she hadn't seen him since the wedding. There were rumors he'd flown to the Caymans, or maybe Dubai, or maybe just holed up in a cabin somewhere without Wi-Fi, hoping the internet had a short memory. Vanessa? Oh, she was very much not off the grid. My phone buzzed at 3:14 a.m. Lisbon time. Unknown number. But this time I knew better. I let it ring twice and picked up. "Marcus," she hissed. "What did you do?" She sounded hoarse, like she hadn't slept. Like someone who'd been trying to scrub a digital dumpster fire with a teaspoon. "Good morning to you, too," I said, stepping out onto the balcony. Don't pretend you're innocent. That man, Edwin, or whatever his name is, was planted. This was sabotage. You're giving me a lot of credit. Don't play cute with me," she snapped. "My name is all over the news. They're calling me the real estate queen who married a grifter. My firm asked me to step back. My clients are panicking. I'm getting death threats from Reddit." I paused. "Vanessa, did you know?" "What? About Brandon?" "The lawsuits. The loans. The fake equity. Did you know?" She was quiet for a second too long. I knew he moved money around. Everyone does it. That doesn't make him a criminal. The FBI seems to disagree. Another pause. Then, in a low, shaky voice, "Do you think I'm stupid?" "No," I said softly. "I think you're the smartest person in any room you walk into." Which makes this even sadder. She exhaled hard, like she'd been punched. "I married someone who could keep up. Someone who looked the part. Someone who didn't quit on me." I leaned against the railing, eyes on the river. "I didn't quit on you, Vanessa. I quit pretending." Silence. "Then, I should have let you leave with less dignity. At least then I'd have felt like I won something." "You did," I said. "You won the wedding." She hung up. I stood there for a long time after that, the cool air brushing against my face, the quiet of Lisbon folding around me like a blanket. For the first time since our divorce, I didn't feel angry or sad. I just felt free. Jason called the next night. His name popped up on my phone like it was stuck between eras, a relic from when I was dad, and not the guy who bailed on the curated family image. I answered, quietly, cautiously. "Hey," he said. "Hey." Long pause. I watched the video, the speech. I sat down on the edge of my bed, staring out at the darkened city beyond the window. "Yeah, it's something." I watched it 7 times. He sounded tired. Not angry. Not this time. just like someone trying to reassemble a puzzle where all the corner pieces were missing. I didn't get it at first, he continued. I thought it was just some unhinged toast. Then Olivia sent me everything. The filings, the lawsuits, Brandon's financials, or what's left of them. You believe it now? He gave a short laugh. The bank I interned at? They issued one of the lines of credit Brandon defaulted on. I'm officially part of the fallout. Jason, they benched me. Not fired, not yet. Just evaluating. I'm temporarily non-client facing. I flinched. He added, I gave a toast about how Brandon was my role model. There's a gif of it now. Someone paired it with circus music. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry, I said. I tried to warn you. You gave me riddles, Dad. You said look at the fundamentals. You didn't say, hey, your future stepfather is a financial Jenga tower covered in gold leaf. Would you have believed me if I had? Silence. Then no, I wouldn't have. We let that sit there for a minute, neither of us needing to fill it with anything but the quiet honesty of regret. Then he said, I talked to Mom. Finally. How'd that go? She said this wasn't her fault. That she was duped, same as me. Said the real betrayal was that I didn't support her publicly. I exhaled slowly. Classic Vanessa. She called Olivia toxic. Said she's jealous and bitter and out to destroy her. That's what she says when people refuse to lie for her. I know that now, Jason said quietly. God, I was such an idiot. No, I said gently. You were just her son. He choked on a laugh. Still am. But for the first time, I don't think I want to be anything like her. I looked out at the quiet Lisbon street below. What do you want to be? Better, he said. Smarter. More like you. I blinked. Me? You left. You got out before it swallowed you. I thought that was weak. But now, I think it was the bravest thing you ever did. My throat tightened. You ever coming to Lisbon? I asked. Yeah, he said, voice lighter now. Yeah, I think I need to see where peace lives. Jason came to Lisbon that October. He showed up with one suitcase, 2 bottles of California Red, because he said irony should be drinkable, and an apology in his eyes so sincere I nearly cried just looking at him. We spent the first few days like tourists, pastries in Alfama, street art in Barro Alto, a boat ride under the 25 de Abril Bridge. But the real healing happened in the quiet. Sitting on my balcony with the sun dripping gold over the Tejo, he told me everything. About the shame, the embarrassment, the slow-motion unraveling of everything he thought he knew about his mother and about me. I used to think strength meant never walking away, he said, swirling his wine. But watching you live this life, this peaceful, simple, real life, I get it now. You didn't leave to escape her. You left to find yourself. I didn't say anything, just nodded, because it was true, and hearing him say it made it feel even more real. He met Isabel on his 3rd day. My neighbor, 51, owns a tiny used bookstore that smells like old poetry and coffee grounds. She shook his hand firmly and told him I was a terrible Portuguese speaker, but an excellent man. Jason grinned. I like her already. Before he left, we sketched out plans. He wanted to transfer to his firm's European office, take a sabbatical, maybe even go back to school. He said Olivia was helping him write a piece about financial due diligence, using his own story as a cautionary tale. From groomsman to ghosted analyst, he joked. Think Harvard Business Review would go for it. I told him absolutely, and I meant it. A week after he flew back, I got a message from Olivia. She called again. Mom. Said she's working at a furniture store. Asked if I could wire her $800 just to get through the month. What did you say? I texted back. Told her to ask Brandon. Then blocked her. Cold, I wrote. Effective, she replied. Jason sent me a photo a month later. Him and his girlfriend, Anna, smiling outside an apartment in Barcelona. The caption, real love. No filters. No financial illusions. I raised a glass of Vinho Verde to the screen. Vanessa, meanwhile, faded into digital oblivion. The wedding video slowed to a trickle of reposts. Her name became a footnote in clickbait listicles about top 10 wedding disasters that weren't movies. Eventually, even the memes got tired of her. I didn't. Not in the way you'd think. I didn't gloat or smile when I saw her name attached to lawsuits. I just felt done. Like a chapter had closed so completely it was sealed in wax. And in its place, sunrise over tiled rooftops. Coffee that didn't come with corrections. Art made with shaky hands and honest colors. A woman who knew my full name and didn't need my resume to love me. A son who called me dad again without flinching. And the quiet, solid ground of a life I built not to impress anyone, but to finally, truly breathe. This is what freedom looks like. And I promise you this. It pairs beautifully with peace.